Hello everyone, I'm Bobtheorc, and welcome to the Lessons of Miyamoto Musashi. This is going to be episode 16. Do not collect weapons or practice with weapons beyond what is useful. And this is sort of an interesting one, especially in modern life where we're probably not collecting a whole lot of weapons because they're not really that useful, but let's take it from the context of feudal Japan. Let's understand what Musashi was talking about, and then let's extrapolate to apply to modern life. So, in feudal Japan, Musashi was a samurai, and he was writing this. He was writing these lessons mostly from the perspective of other samurai, to train other samurai. And it applies to other people as well. Musashi was known for fighting with a long sword and a short sword, a katana and a wakizashi, I believe it's called. But he had his long sword and his short sword, and he was famous for fighting with two weapons. And I'm sure that he trained and understood the use of a variety of other weapons, but those were his go-to items. He traveled lightly, he had the weapons that he used, and he was amazing at them, right? And that's what he did, and so he didn't bother himself with a lot of other stuff. Now let's take this to my life. When I was training in wrestling, my uncle Louis, who was an Olympic wrestler, was an amazing wrestler, and he told me that I should focus on a really, just be really good at a takedown, at a breakdown, and a pin. Be good at taking your opponent to the mat, be good at reducing their defenses and putting them in a compromised position, and then be good at pinning them. And you don't need to know every way to do it. You just need to know a couple ways that work for you, that you're so good at that it doesn't matter that they know you're going to do it. They can't stop you anyway. And so that's what I did. I only had a handful of moves that I would do in wrestling, and even when I've been in fights outside of wrestling, outside of a competition, obviously I don't really want to hurt people. So whenever I've been in fights in the real world, I generally grab them, I throw them to the ground, I restrain them, and then I hold them until they calm down. And it's the same moves that I used as a kid in wrestling. And it's good to have a broad understanding of other ways to do things, but you're going to have kind of your go-to way of doing something that works every time. In life, beyond that, when I'm working on my in business, in my let's say my computer store and my consulting projects, I have kind of my go-to way of doing things, and I kind of structure my projects the same way every single time. Whenever a project comes in, we spend some time with the customer to understand what their needs are. We go through a pretty standardized step-by-step diagnostic process. We call the customer, get any further approval we need, order whatever parts we need, get it done, get it out the door. And that's how the computer business works. And it's pretty much the same string of events, the same process every time. And I don't need to deviate from it. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. One of my mentors in life, a guy named Michael, he said something similar. He said he was big on process. Running a business is all about people, product, and process. You have good people, you have a good product, and then you have a consistent process that you just follow through step by step every time. And you'll see these similarities in life. What do they say? History doesn't always repeat, but it certainly rhymes. You see these common themes in life where you pick a few good things that work, and you just do them, and you do them, and you do them. And this also gets back to not gathering up a whole bunch of possessions you don't need. You don't need a bunch of weapons that you don't use and you don't need. You can take this. I suppose if you want to take this from a modern prepper standpoint, I know there's people that have, a billion weapons. And you don't really need all those weapons. You need, a couple that you're really good with, perhaps. So you can apply this in a number of different directions. I don't need a whole pile of computers. I happen to have a whole pile of computers because I own a computer business. But in general, for my personal stuff, I've got my desktop at home. I've got my laptop at home. Oh, my fire went out. Let's go make another one. I've got my home desktop, I've got my home laptop, and then I've got a reserve laptop that I use to travel with because I don't want to take the good stuff internationally. And so those are the things that I use on a regular basis, and I don't get bogged down with all the gadgets and all the stuff. I've got a friend who's always collecting gadgets, and I don't even know what half of his stuff does. I don't know if he even uses it. It's just taking up space. So the big takeaway from this, I think, is that figure out a good way to do things. Have the tools you need to get things done. It's good to understand other methods, but find a system that works and do it and do it and do it and do it. And be so good at what you do. Focus on being really good at a few things rather than kind of half-assed at a lot of things. And I think that's really what Musashi was talking about, as well as don't overly burden yourself with a bunch of stuff that's not important. Focus on your path, focus on pursuing what's important, and that is the easiest pathway to success. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Please share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and like the video if you want to see more content like this. And don't be assholes to each other, even if they do collect a bunch of stuff they don't use. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.